This meeting is being recorded.
Oh,
Whoa, feedback. This meeting is being recorded and recorded and recorded and recorded. Hello and welcome to our October Sanctuary Online, our amazing book club. You're our club. You're like our book gang. Do we have any signs? We don't have any signs. We don't have any signs. No. We just anyway, I'm excited to be here tonight and to bring you all back together and then to do what I do on book club. I hand you over to who?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. And this is, by the way, our last book club from the North. So next time you see Cheryl, you will not see 4,000 spools of thread behind her, nor will you see the mouse Santa that is, unseasonal. Okay. But we live in the home of a 94-year-old. This is how we roll. Cheryl, I love them. They're good looking. They're all yours.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, here we are with the other Einstein. Did everybody finish the book?
Yep.
All right. All
been
right.
a while though since I've read it, so
oh yeah,
it's been quite a while. So I'll do mostly listen because I was trying to think. I know it stirred a lot in me when I was reading it, because I flunked math in grade 9 and hated it ever after, and it pissed me off totally that Albert Einstein got all the credit for most of the theory that his wife did. But anyway,
yeah.
Well, I had read it for another book club 2 years ago during the pandemic.
Oh.
But I'm glad I did a review because it just reminded me what a good book it was.
Yeah. Cool. Hi, Christy.
It really was.
Welcome. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm late. I just got home.
That's okay. You're in the right place.
You're in the right place. Perfect. Good. All right. So let's just start with a good one. What were your impressions of the book?
Well, I like Marie Bennett. I've read several of her books, and I just think she conveys the history, but she does it like she's just sitting down and talking about the girl next door. It's really a neat way to write a book.
And it's and that's her focus, isn't it? Marie Bennett is on like the woman behind the famous man or whatever, right? Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she wrote a book recently called The Two Presidents' Wives or something like that. But anyway, it's about Eleanor Roosevelt and an African-American woman that was a college president and how they worked together. The two of them worked on Franklin Roosevelt to get the African-American troops into the World War II and everything.
Wow.
He didn't want to do all that, and he had to. Those two women wore him down on it.
Cool. Well, that's awesome.
Wow.
Well, we'll probably read some more of her books eventually too, because I think everybody kind of enjoyed that sort of.
Yes, it was a very well researched book.
Yes, she does that with all her books.
Bud, you're shaking your head. You didn't like this book? No. Why
I
not?
thought it was like a soap opera, and she needed to let him go, get away from him. But
Yeah, she hung on so long.
On and on and on and on. It's like, come on.
Yeah, she really. Yeah.
Was he
and
really?
Why did she hang on?
Well, there weren't options then. You couldn't just go out and make a living.
No.
As a mom, there weren't daycares. and I also think, one of the things the book doesn't deal with directly is that Einstein was a narcissist.
Oh, for sure.
Really?
And that is such a, being involved with a narcissist is they break down your own self-esteem. So you don't think you're even worthy of anymore. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you, Bud. But I think that that's a weakness in the book that they didn't really name that aspect of
back then it wasn't
relationship.
Yeah.
You know who else was a narcissist is Jonas Salk. My deceased partner, Darlene, who did the science book at World Book, she had to deal with him. And
really?
She said she would come back from these meetings in New York where he had to have them at a fancy hotel and had to be entertained. But she said, you notice, Cynthia, that he's never won the Nobel Prize for the Salk vaccine. She said the reason that is that a lot of scientists were working on that together, and he jumped the gun by publishing it in his own name. And she said they never forgave him, and that's why she said he is a total narcissist. It's all about him. So
I don't know if anybody's worked for one or been in a relationship with one, but if you probably found the book a little triggering, because I saw it right away in the behavior.
Oh. Okay.
And then I did some research, and turns out, he was labeled a narcissist.
Wow.
I mean, and they don't say it, but they do allude to it a lot. And remember, she was going down, 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 down until Helena and who was it? Somebody else, her mentor from Curie or something.
Oh,
Marie?
Yes.
They brought her back up,
Yep.
and finally she was able to deal with it, right? But you're right, she was down, 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 down. Just he was breaking her down every little bit. So
well, again, the author researches so well that I'm sure that it must be true, because she put in there that when they divorced, that his wife made it possible to keep the money from the Nobel Prize, because she said it was really mine and I'll never get my name on it. It's too late now. But she got that money in the divorce settlement.
Got the money.
One thing I read in a different source said that yes, Einstein did promise her that money and she got it, but he still had control over the investment aspect of that money.
Oh,
so
dear.
he could still you know what I mean, being the narcissist. And also too, like she had bought a couple of buildings and had like borders and things, but it didn't work out. And she really, after that, I mean, she was not rich by any means and probably had a really super hard time. And then with the second boy being in being so sick and
special needs.
Yes.
So what did you learn that you didn't know before you read the book?
Everything. I never knew anything about it, either one of them.
You just see these pictures all over of him with the white hair and the glasses, and I truly knew nothing except for some of the formulas that I would see, but knew nothing of him. But back then they weren't labeling, like the DSM had really hardly been developed at that point.
Right.
And so no one had a label like they do today, right? But after he didn't show up for the child's death and everything, I was so done. I was so mad. I mean, I finished it and everything, but I just was like, I was just so mad.
It really did impact me.
I never that he was I would have put that label on him too, but no one was putting that label on.
Go ahead, Christy.
No, I feel the same way as Jane Ann, that I knew he was a hound dog and but now knowing how he treated her, that he's dead to me.
Didn't he marry his cousin? Is that what I heard that recently?
Yes. Yeah.
Elsa, I think was her name.
Yeah, her name is Elsa. Yes, I think you're right. Did you guys know that Zurich was more open to women in academics back then? I mean, more open than many of the other countries that Switzerland was. I thought that was quite interesting. Was this a fast read for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably only because I went through my Einstein phase when I was like 20. So this book was very well researched, and some of it was very plausible. A lot of it,
I read an abstract that says that this wasn't true. That and that I mean, it was a really interesting abstract.
What wasn't true?
That a lot of the stuff that the book says that she did not have even the grades. She wasn't even that good of a mathematician. She wasn't that good, that her grades were marginal when she went through the school based on the gradebook records and stuff. And that there was nothing in their letters back and forth that indicated that, you know, she was part of his, you know, his papers and stuff.
Well, her grades not being so good, I think that comes out in the book because she transferred, remember, back and forth to 2 different schools.
Yeah.
To try to keep his interest at bay and all that stuff. And when you do that, you always lose ground.
Right.
Well, and the professors didn't want her to be successful.
No.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that whether it's good or not, but I just said
that's interesting.
I understand.
You know, the abstract, I'll tell you, it's by Alan Esterson. And what he just says is that his bottom line is there is no good evidence that Mileva Marić was Einstein's secret collaborator. And he goes through all the stuff that he's got. And I just thought that was very interesting because I'm like you guys. I just don't like the guy anymore, you know? And then I read that and I thought, maybe there's something in between, you know?
Well, I did read some academic articles about research dealing with Einstein. And a lot of the academics today feel that Mileva had really no part, maybe a little part, just as a sounding board for his ideas. And I did read there was one guy in academics who really pushed for her. And anyway, he died a few years ago, so he's not out there doing anything anymore. But I think it's more common today in the scientific community that she didn't really have a part in it. However, there is some evidence that she did work with Einstein about that theory of relativity, because they found some letters. This was in the 80s. Anyway, they found love letters between Einstein and Mileva. And there were at least 10 times in 40 letters where Einstein says, I can't wait for us to get together. And, oh yeah, here's the quote here. How happy and proud I will be. This is Einstein talking to Mileva. How happy and proud I will be when the two of us together have brought our work on the relative motion to a victorious conclusion. There's about 10 times in those 40 letters where Einstein blatantly says that. But yes, and I'm so glad, Christy, that you mentioned he's a narcissist, because he is. And, it took me a while to realize that. But also I realized that not all great people are ethical. And it's something we have to accept. There's many people with a dark side, too.
So. Yeah, I think that Salk example illustrates that real well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but if I listened to the Audible book and there was an interview with the author at the end, and it talked about those letters, Rose, that she based a lot of the book on those letters. And I, as far as I could tell, nobody really knows what happened to that first little girl.
Yeah, that's what I also saw too,
So she admits in the author's interview that she picked an outcome that she felt was fairly likely. But there's not really definitive evidence whether she died, whether she was adopted. They really don't know.
Yeah. I read that there was a book about the girl, but there's no, even though the person was researching Liesel, I think this
Liesel.
They're really, even after that research, she was not able to figure out what happened to the little girl. So yeah.
Because they didn't make them do birth certificates back then.
Right.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So there's no birth certificate or death certificate for her.
Yeah.
And wasn't there anything in letters back and forth, or
that was the only thing? It was the letters.
Yeah.
That birth certificate thing's interesting because I was always told my grandmother's name was Jeanette Margaret, and when Social Security was invented, we had to go, get her on it, and she had no papers or anything. So we went to get a birth certificate, and her name was Margaret Jeanette. And
Oh.
that shook her up, and it shook us up. And so we started asking, and a genealogist told us, listen, in those days they went house to house and delivered the babies, and the doctor had an envelope in his pocket where he would write the names down. And then he went once a month and recorded them.
Mhm.
So they said there's a lot of mix-ups because he just wrote down what he wrote down, and so he wrote down, Margaret Jeanette instead of Jeanette Margaret.
What a story.
Wow.
That's interesting. So, other than Albert, which apparently no one likes, what characters did you like? And why?
Well, I just like to set the setting of the scene around the university, and she and those girlfriends of hers and all that. It was just so charming. And I'm sure it was really like that, These girls lived in protected houses, and it was just very much like that. And I enjoyed their banter and their discussions, and so it was fun.
Cheryl, your question about Zurich, there was a Canadian school that developed for women who excelled. My lawyer went to the school. It was in Lausanne, Switzerland, called Neuchâtel, and it was very famous for turning out very smart mathematicians, a lot of whom went to the math school where BlackBerry and all of that was formed in Waterloo. And that was in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s. And I remember my lawyer's a grad of that school and then came back to Waterloo for math. And she said she would have never had a math career had it not been for attending that school, because they were so open to women excelling in the sciences and in math. And attributed that school. And you had to have a certain mark to go to even apply, and they would send only a certain number of students from Ontario, Canada, to the school for grade 13, and you got all of your credits and then a special certificate. And she attributes that to that school to her whole career.
Wow.
So I agree. I think there was a lot more openness in Europe to women excelling in those, what I call the flunky, difficult subjects.
Well, and they said Switzerland particularly, because where she grew up, they didn't even allow that, right? And the Hungarian, empire or whatever it was at the time.
Yes.
And but this abstract, one of the things it says was that 20% in Maleva's time were women at Polytechnic. 20% were women.
Yeah.
That's pretty high, but that's
high, don't you think? I think that's high.
Yeah. And she said there was one female graduate before Maleva entered her studies there. There had already been one female graduate. But it makes me think, wow, Switzerland was just a lot more open than a lot of other places were, in Germany or anywhere else, which, I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, news to me. Did you like Helena? Yeah, she didn't. The author didn't really develop a lot of characters. Helena wasn't even all that developed, right? The main two were Albert and Maleva, really, right? And
and the people that he associated with at the cafe. I mean, there was a whole culture around that cafe and their intellectual banter, I guess, and the safety around that.
Yeah.
I was impressed with a couple of scientists who talked with Albert. It's kind of near the end of the book, but it's about the patents that they were creating.
Yes.
And one of the two men said, well, we need to get Maleva's name on this patent as well. And, of course, Einstein didn't want it. But again, Maleva, did not have any self-esteem. And she had said, she just kind of said, we are one stone, I guess because of the name Einstein is one stone.
Yes.
She is listed in there in his name, you know. So anyway, again, she had that low self-esteem. But I was impressed that that man said that. I thought that was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and wasn't he a guy that was a friend of Albert's?
Yes.
Yeah, and so
He
he
always
kind of
showed.
knew a little bit about them,
They
right?
pictured him showing a lot of niceties to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Who all listened to the book? You said you listened to the book, Christy, right? Yeah, okay. I listened to the book too. This is the first time I've ever listened to a book, and I think I like better reading it. But the voice on this one was really kind of clipped, matter of fact, almost like I don't know, a Germanic type of voice. Did you guys notice that? You know, does it seem like
Well, they
that?
try to pick voices. I will say this, Cheryl. We used to just have the talking books in the car when we drove to Arizona and California for the winter for several years, and I don't do that anymore. But and so I don't do the talking books. But I'll tell you what's really neat was when it's read to you by one of the characters, like Katharine Hepburn's autobiography. She read it, and as I listened to it, it was done with such conviction that I just loved it. So that talking books thing, it depends on how it's done. To really, you can't make them all, you know, they're not all like.
Yeah.
I have to read because I love turning down the pages and underlying things, and I can't do that with a library book. This was a library book, so I couldn't really do that, but it really helps me remember. I used to study like that too, so I can't concentrate well when I'm listening to audiobooks.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what I found too, is that, you know, I often read, or on this time I was listening before I go to sleep. And she'd get into a part and it would lull me into a, you know, if I get lulled in like that when I'm reading, I know where I stop reading, you know, so I have to page it there. But if you get lulled in when you're you know, when you're listening, you don't have any idea where you left off, you know? Yeah. What did you say, Kay? Let me see what you said here.
yeah, just reading what she said.
Yeah, in the book, the two brothers were being asked to build the machine. All four were going to be listed on the patent, which is why the one brother made note of, why she was left off the patent. Yeah, you're right. I remember that too.
And I do think I just remember what I hear better than I remember what I read. I've always been that way. When I had to read for school, I'd read out loud.
Really? Oh, cool. Okay, so you're an audio learner.
I'm an audio learner.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes a whole lot of sense to do that. So you guys, do you pretty well believe the way she wrote this story, that a lot of these things that Mileva probably created, or what do you think's the real story as to her involvement in this stuff?
Well, I think she had some involvement for sure. I mean, I just think that I have enough respect for Marie Bennett. I don't think she would, you know, write it the way she did if she didn't have any involvement.
Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing. I don't know where it came from, but it's near the end where Albert was now beating on her and she was black and blue. I don't know if that actually was true. I mean, his emotional abuse is enough to really tear someone down, but I don't know if he actually would have hit her.
I didn't like that part. That was the one part of the book I didn't think should have been in there.
Yeah.
Why do you say that, Carol? Because you didn't.
Because I read, well, in my 20s, I went through my Einstein phase, and I read a lot of biographies about Albert Einstein, and there's just, I just didn't get that impression. I didn't think it was necessary to put that in the book. Everything else I think thought was plausible. He was a poor math student. He was tutored by two men, mostly by Baso. I can't remember his first name. Last name is Baso. And he was also tutored by Grossman. And so I think it's very plausible that she had more to do with those 1905 papers. than he has ever been let on.
Particularly the math part of it is what you're saying.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I'm saying that he would have definitely needed some type of sounding board as he was writing those papers. And I think she would be the perfect sounding board, even though maybe her grades weren't the greatest when she was in college. I don't know. But that's.
Was there such a term in those days as ghostwriter? You know how a lot of times people like even when we read the book terrorist thing, you know, Louise Penny was really ghostwriting for Hillary Clinton. And you know, I think the emotional distance they had by the time all of that was coming to huge fruition, she was in such a low state and so focused on her kids. She really receded. So it makes it look as if she could possibly not have had as much influence, but I think she did.
I agree.
Well, and I took it more as, you know, using this relationship to highlight issues with relationships in that time and the struggles that smart women had. You know, maybe not all those things happened in this particular relationship, but things like that were happening. It's very similar to what I felt when we read the last one, Lessons in Chemistry, that, you know, Elizabeth Zott was kind of a figurehead for smart women in that time and the struggles they had.
Agree.
Well, remember too, she was always proving herself to her father as well as Einstein.
Right.
So she had motivation to keep going because she wanted to prove herself to her father. So I that's why I think that she was more involved than anyone at that time thought, because she was wanting to press daddy too.
So did everyone come away from here having a lesser opinion of Albert Einstein? Or did you already know, Carol, did it seem it matched up with what you'd read before?
Yeah, I had a little bit more of a negative view after reading this book, I would say.
I just think that it fit men of those times.
Yeah.
Precisely, Cynthia, I think.
Yeah, just exactly. And I mean, I see it today even. I mean, I've just been through something where I was in a decision-making process on something, and unbeknownst to me, two of the men made a decision without me and never let me know, and was a family matter. But I just thought they learn that at work. They can just walk right past you if you don't. You know, I did speak up and get some of it corrected, but it was like, wait a minute, I wasn't contacted about that.
Yeah. What about you, Kay? Did you feel like, I mean, has it changed your opinion of Albert Einstein, or where were you at?
Well, I didn't think much about Einstein in any regard because I hadn't done much study of him. But I can see, the other thing that I think about is that almost all the stuff written about Einstein is written by men, and that totally flavors and colors what the how they look at things, because they look at it, just like Cynthia's saying, they look at it through that lens that they've been taught all this time, and they don't. I mean, they diminish women here and there all the way. So,
very good point. Yes.
And they grab the power. They know to grab the power.
Yeah.
They're taught that it's nothing evil about it. It's just that's what we do.
Yeah.
Grab the power and run with it.
Yeah. One of my sister, Kelly, she's not here tonight, but she finished the book a little before I did. And what she said is, that's a very sad book to me. It was a sad story because of what happened to her. So she was at such heights and she had such capability, and it's just too bad that it just all, went downhill, from there.
Well, and I'm curious, how many of you made a decision to put your career behind a relationship with either a man or a woman. But you let a relationship trump professional goals.
No.
Yeah, I could not see myself doing that. I mean, I haven't done that. You have to be able to make your own way in the world and make money to survive.
Yeah, I don't think I let a relationship per se do that. But I know that when I decided to have children, it was a decision that took me a long time to make, because I was doing very well in the Air Force and had been told that I had some really, really high potential. And but I didn't want to try to do that, stay in the Air Force, stay in the military, and raise kids at the same time. I just didn't want to, you know. I was allowed to, but I didn't want to. And so when I decided to have kids, that changed things for me as far as career path went. And so because I was married, you know, that was part of it, you know. I mean, that decision was made by the two of us, right? So, and my ex-husband said, yes, I'd like to have kids someday. He wasn't like, you know, but that was so in a way that was a little bit Christy that way. Yeah. So nobody else had a relationship that impacted their career?
Because I was kind of mad at her for marrying Albert.
Yeah.
It's kind of like on the dad side. You know, we invested so much in your ability, and in that time, especially once you married. And I was really mad at her for marrying him.
Yeah. Particularly after the daughter died and there wasn't any need for that anymore, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
But I could also understand, wow, I want to be normal, and wow, this guy likes me. And narcissists can be so charismatic.
Yeah. And seductive, like you said. Yeah. And she was driven because she thought that relationship, that marriage, would actually help her career, right? Yeah, that the two of them would collaborate together and that would help her career.
I was impressed with her mother. Her mother sure came around to her.
Yeah.
Do you feel like she came around, Bud, because she was starting to be a mother and a woman the way she wanted her to be? Or do you think,
Probably.
Rather than being career oriented?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has this book impacted your life as far as, do you want to read more about other women like that, or, you know, in history, or what, or did it impact your life in another way?
Well, I told you I read it 2 years ago, and I want to read more historical fiction because of it, and I have been. I've read more of Marie Bennett's books, and I've read other historical fiction. I just learned that it's really a fun way to kind of go into the depth of history, not just the facts of history. But by the way, I just read Rachel Maddow's new book, and I can't honestly recommend that we as a book club read it, because it's a series of fact after fact after fact about fascism in the United States in the 30s and 40s. And it goes from one character, fascist, to another, to another, to another. And I'm thinking, do I really want all this in my head? It's very detailed and it's very good research, but it's more like something you'd read for a class on fascism.
Yeah.
So
unless you were interested in reading history facts, right?
Yeah, it's all factual about fascism and its growth, and it was really active in the World War II. It really was. There were all kinds of organizations. Just to give you one fact that really is, to me, mind-boggling, but I'm sure things like this go on now. The senators and the congressmen that were for these fascist positions would give these fascist organizations tons and tons of envelopes. I mean, I'm sorry, the organizations would give them the envelopes, and the senators would use their franking privileges to put all these through a machine or a stamp so that they got free postage to send this stuff to whoever they wanted to.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just one representative or one senator, lots of them were doing it.
Hmm.
So things like that, I mean, I like knowing that, but there's all these biographies really basically of all these different people that were involved in the fascist movement in the United States. I mean, no, it's too much of a school book.
Hmm.
And this, as I said, this historical fiction, isn't it? It draws me in. I really like that.
Yeah, because there's a novel aspect to it. It's a story,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah.
It's a fun way to learn about history.
Yeah. Yeah. I just started reading a book which is historical, but it seems like it's got a little bit of story in it, but I haven't read it very far. It's called The Sisterhood: The Secret History of Women at the CIA.
Wow.
Oh, I'd love to read that.
Yeah, so that's what I've just started reading, and I thought it was, so far it seems kind of interesting. But I think it's nonfiction. I don't think there's any. She says all the characters in it are real, and she uses their real names unless they're still undercover and blah blah blah. You know, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that's really historical.
I have a friend whose sister worked at the CIA, and I'll ask her about that book.
Yeah,
I talk to her all the time.
the woman who wrote it, Lisa Monday, also wrote The Code Girls. And
Okay.
Oh, I read that, I think.
Did you?
Yeah, that was a good book.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it historical or was it fiction?
Oh, I read it so long ago. I think it was just a historical fiction. I can't remember, but I remember really liking that book.
Yeah.
I remember in the 80s asking, when I met Peggy, she worked for me for 10 years, but I remember asking her, well, like, what does your sister do? And she was quite forthcoming. I don't know if she should have told me this, but she said, well, right now, her big project is she is tracking and compiling all the land in the United States of America that's owned by the Japanese.
Wow.
This was in the 80s. Now, why they were doing that, she never told me, but I just found that interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of analysis I was in intelligence in the Air Force. Right?
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of analysis and data checking and interpretation of that data in order to be able to have the data for future reference and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So yeah, you do a lot of background type of things, or some people do a lot of background type of things in order to get the information that's ready.
Has anybody read Girls of the Atomic City?
I think I read that one too.
What is
It's very it's like this one where you get a lot of history about an event that I didn't realize was such a big deal. They built this entire city in the middle of nowhere in the South to build the atomic bomb.
Oh, wow. I thought that was New Mexico. Did they do this in New Mexico?
Well, this was in the South. This was like in Tennessee or something.
Oh,
if I remember correctly.
Huh.
And it focused on 4 different women who had different kinds of jobs at this little city. It's this whole city that they built to be able to build the components of the bomb.
So it was that kind of the precursor before it was done, and because it was, I thought that true, Cynthia, that it was done like in Nevada.
They put it together and tested it in New Mexico, but they built it. They built a lot of the components in Tennessee.
Okay.
Which I
Christy,
didn't know.
what was the name? What was the name of that, Christy?
Girls of the Atomic City.
All right, thanks. I'm just capturing.
What's the one that's the DiCaprio movies is the start of the FBI, the one that just hit the movie screens now.
Oh, about Osage, something Osage.
Of Freedom.
Children of the Flower Moon.
Oh, that's it. Children of the Flower Moon.
Hmm.
But that's about the beginning of the FBI, as I understand it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, do we want to talk about at this point what we want to read next? Are we kind of done this book? Huh?
Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah.
Bud, you got any ideas for the next book?
Oh, I just read it and I just couldn't find it. It's Jodi Picoult. It's her latest book. Her books are usually real easy read. This was really good. And I read it last month and I can't find it.
Maybe Joby can look it up on the computer.
Can you Google it?
Jodi Picoult. I can't Google it on my.
What's the name of it, Bud?
I don't know.
Jodi Picoult wrote it.
Jodi Picoult's latest book.
Okay, I'm Googling.
Jodi.
And Christy, by the way, there's the Girls of Atomic City and there's the Atomic City Girls. So we need the author.
Oh, okay. Let me look.
Because there's 2 books out right now. And one's Janet Beard, one's Denise Kiernan.
Have we read this one?
What is that? The Island of what?
Island of Sea of Women.
Yes. Did we read that?
Have we read this?
Weren't they in Japan? And
yes.
Yeah, we read that.
We read it? I don't
know. We didn't read it, I don't think.
Yeah,
well, maybe it was another book club. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I did read that book though.
I myself did read it, and it's a very good book.
It is a very good book.
Joe, mine is by Denise. Gosh, why am I having trouble seeing who this is by?
I'll get it as long as I know that name. I got it. Don't worry.
And it's handled with a K. Joby, Handle with Care is the one that Bud's talking about?
That's Bud's.
Yeah.
What was the name of that one, Bud? Or Jody?
I've got it in the chat, y'all. So, but Bud's is called Handle with Care.
And Jody then Kay just put one out there too in the chat.
Yep, Kay put one out there. Thank you, Kay, my assistant here. And I'm trying to get Christy's. Christy, Atomic Girls.
The Girls of Atomic City.
Yeah, that's different.
By Denise. And it looks like the last name begins with a K.
Diary of a Tuscan.
Kiernan, I got it.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching a video of it. I don't need that.
All right. And the other one that Ken was talking about, In Memoriam, by Alice Wynne, is World War I takes place. 2 upper-class schoolboys. They have a strong unnamed love, and that drives them somehow to enlist in the army together, even though they're not of age.
Wow.
My book is Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult.
It's not her newest one then, Bud.
No, it isn't. I just found out.
Oh, Mad Honey, because you didn't you didn't jump when she said the name of that book. So
yeah, Mad Honey. Good book.
All right, I'm gonna write that down. So we'll take that's Christie's now. Oh shit, no, it's not. Oh, Christy, sorry. I keep your fingers off. It's just Girls of Atomic City.
I'll get it. Sounds like it's by Denise K.
Yeah, Denise, the author is the same.
Okay. But she wrote 2 different books?
Here, hon, I'm going to put the whole thing, copy, paste. This is the accurate part of Christie's perspective.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Denise Kiernan. Yeah, and that was an excellent book. And there was another one I read that was about women in who ran the big hospital during World War II in London. Wow. And I'm trying to find it and I can't find it, but it was similar in terms of women who really went way beyond where society would allow women to go at the time. And then also dealing with the aftermath after the war, and then and that really difficult time when women were told to, go back to the kitchen. And you get some of that in Atomic Girls too.
Yeah. Bud, what is Mad Honey about?
It's kind of a little murder mystery.
Okay.
Which I'm usually not into, but this was good.
Sounds like a nice, easy read.
And yeah, it's easy, it's fast, it's good.
Yeah.
And my best friend who gives me all her books, she never liked Jodi Picoult, and this one she loved. So
Cool.
Well,
Oh,
Jody
that
wrote
sounds
My
good.
Sister's Keeper, right?
I think so.
She wrote that one that got turned into a movie.
Kay, what is the book you put up there about?
It's about a poet. I'm trying to remember, in that city area, and who opens a bookshop during the pandemic, but it's in a very small community. So she basically has a diary for 6 months from when she starts it to, it's like from January to June, but during that time period. And it's just very interesting. And it, at the end of each day, she lists the books that she's ordered, which I found very fascinating, because some of the books she listed and they, part of them are books that are in Italian or some other language, but some of them are the English. So
Oh,
Here's another one.
Is that in Italy? Excuse me, Kay. Was that
Yeah.
in it? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Where's another one?
I'm putting it in chat. It's The Women's March by Jennifer Chiavari. It's about the suffragette movement.
Oh, yeah.
It's also very good. And about something I really never knew anything about.
Didn't we read a book way back that talked about some women that were involved in the suffragette movement? I don't know. Maybe I'm off. I read a book.
I know I read something about that. All the early women in the suffragette movement.
Yeah.
If it was with this group or by myself, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I know what it was. I think it was maybe Four Winds. Did they go into that a little bit? Maybe I'm just no, that was something else. Never mind. Okay. So do you guys, you want to take a look at all these books that are in the chat and see what you think you might want to read next? By the way, our next book is going to be our last book of the year, and we're going to do it not around Thanksgiving, but I'm sorry, Jane, and I know it's not your Thanksgiving, but anyway, on December 12th. Okay.
Okay.
That'll be our last book of the year.
December 12th. Oops. Okay.
So now we just have to figure out what it's going to be.
No Man's Land. Yes. Rose. That's the one. That's the one. Did you like it?
Oh, I didn't read it, but I just looked it up.
Oh, yes. That was it.
But it sounds good.
What is it about?
Rose put it in chat. It's about women who started hospitals and started and ran hospitals in London.
Oh,
and I guess it was World War I, not World War II. So it was World War I. And it was
That's the Women's March.
And the Women's March is it's set in America. It's America's suffragette movement. They're both historical fiction, they like the one we just finished, it fills in stuff.
You've got so many fabulous titles in this list. We could even pick up the next two books as a suggestion.
Really. Yeah, maybe we should do that.
If anyone wants to know anything about trans, this book explains a lot of stuff about trans.
Mad Honey one?
Mad Honey?
Yeah. Yeah. Even though it's a little murder mystery, there's some real twist in it.
Interesting.
Well, what are your thoughts?
There's a
Has to
lot
be
of
light read. I'm reading too much heavy stuff, which is I don't base it on what my choice would be, but
well, it is the holidays, Finan, so it is time for a possibly cushier read. Like maybe not Rachel Maddow, right, Cynthia?
No, don't go to
I
that
have
book.
a crazy month coming up. Crazy.
So somebody who put a book up there, pitch why yours would be a great. Now you've got 6 weeks to read it, right? That's not one nice thing. A little bit longer to read. Somebody take a stand.
If you want to know anything about beekeeping, you'll know more than you ever want to know about beekeeping.
You know, I'm starting to think I want to do your book, bud.
Well, I haven't read it yet, so I'd vote for that one too.
I haven't read it either.
I haven't either.
Okay,
And I haven't
Here's
read The Sisterhood. That one sounded interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a novel, but it seems kind of story-like, you know. So just so you know that. What?
I'm going to
Joey?
call on me since I'm the host. Bud, if we pick your book, you have to show up.
I will.
Okay? There's been times we picked your book and you have not shown up.
Once.
Right? Okay, well, I got a great memory.
Joe.
Pardon?
Only once.
I just like seeing his face.
Okay.
And we're going to be down there soon. And you know what, Bud? Oh, I'll tell you later.
Well, guess where I'll be Wednesday night?
I'm such a tease. Pardon?
Guess where
Where
I'll
will
be?
you be?
At
Where?
your place.
Really?
Sanctuary. Yeah.
Yeah, is it boys' night out or something?
We have to talk wedding.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yay.
How is Ken doing, by the way?
Yeah.
He's doing really well. Yeah,
he was doing well till he fought with a Amazon package and lost.
Oh.
And so
What
he's
happened?
got one side of his face is all scraped up. We have a very long driveway, and sometimes we have amazing Amazon people who will carry your stuff right onto the porch and all these things. And sometimes people leave it out on the road, which just means someone should steal it.
Yeah.
You know, and when on all my Amazon stuff it says, "Do not leave this on the road. People will steal it." And then I give them instructions. But occasionally it feels like if it's heavy sometimes, Cheryl, I've covered the heavier shit back in. Anyway, so Ken had something big and heavy, a gift for his grandchildren, and it's a puzzle board. And so he went out with a wheelbarrow. I'm not gonna guarantee that with us not there, the wheelbarrows tires are pumped. Just saying. Right? There you go. Without the lesbians. Sorry.
I'm with you.
There you go. Thanks, Cynthia. So anyway, he lost the weight on it somehow, and it went over, and he went over with it, and
oh no.
But beyond, for Ken's last 3 years, he's doing fabulous. He doesn't look it today. Yeah, he's doing well. He's his energy, right, Cheryl? Talk about a bounce back.
Yeah. He's really.
All right, I'm going to give you a hint right now. That's something you have to put into your celebration of their 50th.
Okay.
I was not there. Can't remember why, because I was always included, but a few nights before their marriage, several, I think it was mostly fellas, there were women there too, but anyway, they had a party for Tom, and they all brought these frilly frocks for Tom to dress up in on the honeymoon.
Oh.
And I saw some of the pictures of the frocks, and I don't know if he ever got into them, but it was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. He was
gotta have a little something beforehand for Tom.
Rocks for Tom. Okay. Christy, we before you came on, we announced that Sanctuary is going out to sea again. So you're gonna have your November 2024 book club will be somewhere in the Caribbean at a bar on a ship in Carnival. So it's Ken and Tom's 50th. So we're trying to get 50 people to jump on the waves with us and become Sanctuary at Sea again. So I've got it noted, Cynthia. but I'm going to be
that's
counting
good,
on you.
Cynthia. You probably have more
something
stuff
for
like
Tom.
that.
And the frilly gowns and everything. Yep.
Okay.
No
Yeah.
doubt. And Tom needs his share. But anyway, Ken is doing well. That is a sidebar because you guys don't want to make a decision. I love you, but I know you. Okay. So so
How
there's
many
a
I
few.
move that we go with Bud's book. I just think it'd be fun. And he
Okay.
said it's an easy read. And I just, with the holidays and December 12th, I don't want to have to show up and having read something that I haven't read.
Let's keep the list that we came up with.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
the
yes,
list. I've
yes.
written
Circle
some
back
down.
to
I
it.
think it's a great list.
Oh, I love the list.
Yeah, I love
Cheryl?
the list too.
Copy the list, Cheryl.
Can you save the chat and then I'll get
Yes,
it from you?
I
Save
can,
the
and you
chat.
can too. Here's how you save the chat.
I
You
know
go
how to
down
save
to
the chat.
Okay,
you
well
take
then
a screenshot.
Now,
it's
one
just
thing
easier
I
to
want
I
to
wrote
save.
it
ask,
down. So it's mad honey, mad or bad?
Mad.
Mad honey.
one
Jody
thing I want to
Picoult.
ask before we leave, are you having Giving Tuesday this year?
We are. Thank you. Oh my God, Cynthia, I need to send you money. And thank you for the opportunity for sharing. Yes, it's our largest fundraiser of the year, as many of you know. And today we just actually decided what that money was going toward. I mean, every year we want to have a theme, right? Folks to give to something. And want me to share that? Spill those beans too, Cynthia?
Yes.
You guys get to know everything ahead of time. So as we build out the sanctuary property for people to come and guess, I mean, many of you might know we just had a bunch of veterans there just a bit ago. And we have this, right now it's a horseshoe pit, but it's had better days. And so we're going to build in that area. So there's a big fire pit. There's a big horseshoe pit right by the pool, right? So it's kind of like a recreational area. But we have this majestic centerpiece oak that this year didn't make it. And so what we did though, because we're forward thinking and visionaries, is we had the guys cut it off at desk height, like standing desk height, the stump. And then we had them save the biggest parts of the wood of the trunk and cut massive so we can plane them and make the outdoor table from the tree that was right there. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that's so nice.
So that's one thing. And then the other area, right, we're gonna basically redo and dig out that area, cover it with the cedar boards, their trunks that we have everywhere else, and make a legit cornhole. Cheryl talked to me. Cornhole. What's the other thing? Bocce ball. Cornhole, bocce ball, and horseshoe area. But nice, you know, with chips and lights all around it, all that kind of stuff. So now that when we have, even though we're not done building, there's more things for folks to do when they come out there. Because next year, one of the things we're hoping to do as part of our programming on that table is teach people how to garden and then have them buy part of one of our gardens. And you can buy half a garden, a whole garden. And Ken the other day said he went to the store and spent $1.49 on a pepper. He said, we can teach people to spend $1.49 on a pepper plant and get 50 peppers, you know, if they know how to. So we rebuilt extra high-rise gardens this year in preparation. So we're building it out. We're doing the work, you know. So thank you, Cynthia. The 28th, which happens to be Cheryl's birthday.
So you're giving to me, really. You're just giving to me. So.
Yeah.
That's 28th of November?
Yes, ma'am. That is Giving Tuesday.
Is that the next book club day too?
No, December 12th.
December 12th.
No, but that's okay.
Yep. We got to have money to buy the books, Christy. Got to pay for mama's dinner, right? So anyway, thank you, Cynthia. We're excited about that. That's also going to be in the email that you'll all be getting probably, again, later this week or this weekend. We're cranking it all up, telling what we've done and telling what we're planning on doing. So thank you all for being so freaking wonderfully loyal. And not to mention so good looking and so incredibly intelligent, intellectual, and fun to talk with.
And save the chat so you have all those books. So you know.
Have you got it, Cheryl?
I've got it. And if you want, when I send out the next email, I'll put a list. I'll list them. Okay.
Oh, I appreciate that.